Marco,
Let's do it, Sean.
let's go.
Let's
I
do
have
it.
uh, I have a new
One, two,
narrative I want
three.
to try out on you.
You have a new narrative? All right, go for it.
A new position.
You shouldn't disclose that. I have a new narrative I want to try on you. I'm going to try to social engineer you right now.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Oh, it's
We're,
a
we're kind of that
challenge.
we're kind of that bold, I think,
Challenge accepted.
and we're all
There
too
you go.
busy to recognize that that's what's happening anyway.
That's right.
But look,
That's
look what's in the background of our friend's screenshot there.
right.
The view.
It's a big
I know what
building.
it is.
It's a
I know
tall
what it is.
building.
It's a tall building, and,
It's not Florence,
and,
Italy, or
and it's
Rome.
not
I
Florence.
know. I know that for a
It's
fact.
always good to see you, good friend Chris Pierson. How are you, man?
We're doing good, doing good. It's good to
Doing
be
good.
here, and great, beautiful day in New York today.
It is a
Yeah.
beautiful day in the city today, and I'm open to enjoy a bit of it, and go try out some narratives on some folks,
There you go.
There you go
or,
again.
or hear some. I'm actually going to a comedy show tonight, so I'm probably going to hear some narratives.
You, they're gonna do narratives on you. Don't
Yes,
sit. Don't
exactly.
sit on the in the first
I'm not sitting in the first.
in the first chair in front of the
I was
stage.
a sucker once. They said you're the VIP, and I'm cool, and then I realized what that meant.
There you
Meant
go.
you're the target for that comedian. But here we are, Chris. It's like I said, it's always good to see you, and um, continue to be excited about all the things you have going at BlackCloak and what you're doing for executives and other high net worth folks who represent businesses, but also have families that need to be protected just as much as the businesses do. A lot of updates from you, and yeah, it's probably a good time. Is there any highlights you want to note? I think
Well,
people have seen you enough that we don't need another introduction from
I don't think you need another introduction. I mean, it's like so much has changed, though, right? It's
right?
like I almost feel like it was back to like March of 2020 when it's like all of a sudden everyone's out and about, and then poof, right? All of the whole world kind of shuts down. Everyone goes home. It's like there's these monumentous actions, activities that just happen, and it triggers change. I think COVID triggered a lot of change for a lot of folks just all over in terms of remote work, in terms of working from home, a lot of different things there. For us, it really accelerated things in terms of people recognizing that the home is the new battleground in terms of digital executive protection. But I mean, we just had another big, unfortunate change in December in terms of how do you think about the convergence of cybersecurity and physical executive protection. So that digital executive protection and physical, with unfortunately a targeted assassination of Brian Thompson, and I think that that's really awakened the community to say, what more can we do beyond data broker removal? What more can we do beyond a physical close protection, executive protection, individual? What other things can we do there to go ahead and protect our executives? So definitely one of those monumental kind of watershed events, and yeah, we're working with a lot of great CISOs and CSOs and their executive protection teams to really solve that.
mm.
Really meaningful work.
Let's talk a little bit more about that because that's the thing I talk always, like there is not digital versus physical anymore. It's all together, and this unfortunately it's unfortunate what happened, but it's also the proof of that, and the proof is also into even cyberbullying that turned into bullying or bullying into cyberbullying. So again, what you do online is not in a different planet. It's not behind the scene. It's part of your life. So this connection. Why do you feel like people are starting really to understand this a little bit more, and what can be done?
Well, I mean, I think that just the inherent risk, right? The risk of doing nothing in this area has just massively been grown out of proportion. It is massively risen.
Mm.
We've always had these vignettes and these stories. We did a press release, actually, this February of 2023. It was from data our threat intelligence team gleaned in Q3 and Q4 of 2022, saying that insurance companies, biomed, pharmaceutical, healthcare companies, we were seeing a rise in kind of that vitriol. We were seeing a rise in doxing. We were seeing a rise in swatting, especially our pharmaceutical companies. We had one pharmaceutical company that raised drug prices some 400%. And immediately the board and the executive team were doxed, right? Information was released. They actually had, and once again, this is the key thing, is right, data broker information that's out there at the kind of like whitepages.com, Spokio, Zeta Search, all those, right? That information was then harnessed and used. It was found out, right, where they live, where the kids go to school, what the phone numbers were. And that digital information moved to protesters out in front of their apartments, out in front of their homes, and actually protesters out at their kids' location when the other family member was actually dropping off kids for the CEO, being confronted with that. Literally, I think there were 6 and 8 year olds, egress in the car, and they're met with protesters. And so what you see is, right, that digital world and the physical world converging. And I think that's what the biggest takeaway has been, is that it is 100% a interwoven, converged world and attack surface, and we need to think about it collectively together. We need to group the CISO and the cybersecurity teams with the chief security officer and the executive protection teams, and there's a really big attack surface out there that can be not eliminated, but most definitely, from a privacy perspective, mitigated and or made aware of what those risks are. I think there are a lot more executives now. I know there are a lot more executives now that are being more accommodating to physical protection persons while they're at the hotel, while they're traveling, whereas before it was hey, no, this is a little bit too much, guys. They're more open to that now, and they understand it's not because of like them, it's because of the role that they're in, and they do have a duty and obligation back to their company and employees to protect themselves.
And their family, of course, as well.
And their
And so what you described in terms of that connection between digital and physical is super disturbing, of course. But you mentioned that you saw a rise in the digital activity. So I want to spend a moment there, because I was joking around the narrative before, but I think there are narratives that maybe people put out there that they just want to get off their chest, but then other people want to actually do something with it. So then they start to take action and use that narrative to drive some activity or what have you, using other information like you were describing of where they live, what's their travel schedule, what meetings do they have, stuff that can be found online fairly easily, or if not, accessed through kids' mobile devices if the kid logs in and the device gets compromised. So I don't want to go out down that path, but I guess you saw some rise in this, connected to executives, I presume.
Exactly. I mean, kind of in two different areas. Number one, kind of a narrative attacks of a concerted, coordinated efforts. Sometimes they're actually by cyber criminals. Sometimes they are by those organized criminal syndicates, masquerading more as nation states in terms of manipulation attacks. In other cases, they're actually people that are just, they've had it with whatever it is there. I just did an interview the other day on retail and transportation, or hospitality and transportation industry. I mean, when you think about it, when you have bad experiences, it's going to be the plane was delayed, I had bad service, all the rest, or the hotel, something bad happened, or healthcare wise, there's something there, and kind of searching, and while there are legitimate complaints that are coming out of that industry from the different consumers of the products, of the services, some of this is actually being generated by botnets, by organized criminal syndicates. And so it's there that the narrative attack, like actually peeling back, what is this message that is being pushed out there? Who's doing the pushing? Is it the same message on multiple channels? Is it actually a bot? Is it actually a whole bunch of people that have been hired just to go ahead and push that narrative? Really being able to peel back, and our team is doing some of this, being able to peel back that meaning about, who's doing this, why are they doing it, what, and then what risk does it hold? The level of vitriol and fervor that's out there on social media is at an all-time high, but being able to peel that back is usually important. It's important for the two reasons. Number one, for the overall brand, whatever it is, Acme Planes, Acme Hotels, Acme Insurance Company. It's really important for that in terms of the overall brand, to try to figure out what is that, what's the level of discontentment, and how real is it? Not just how much of it is there. That's not the most important question. The most important question is going to be, where is it coming from? What's the messaging? Is it coordinated? Is it uncoordinated? Is it real? What are the different things? And the second is, when those people whose names are brought in as a part of it, and that's really where BlackCloak comes in. what do we see there? That About Us leadership pages, as you guys know from our many conversations, the open source intelligence there is huge. Jennifer, the CEO, lives with Benny, the husband. They live in this community. They have Luke and Leia as their kids, Fluffy the dog. They love doing Habitat for Humanity on Saturdays, and on Sunday you'll find them at the equestrian center. Look, I mean, that in combination with deep web, dark web, in combination with data broker. Once you add some vitriol and fervor and some push messaging there, it becomes really important to understand, what is this narrative? Where is it coming from?
So I'm going to ask you something specific here, but I want to make a point. We were in a conference last week, and one of the presentation was actually about the dark web. And it was not happy news. It wasn't a Christmas story, right? It was really pretty much, you're there, right? It's just a matter of
anything you want, could fathom,
whatever. You're
banks,
kind of
houses, family.
Yeah. So thinking about that and thinking about, something creates an attack narrative.
Yeah.
One of the things that make you come in mind after you see something like that, or you hear something like, well, the news is out. How do you put it back in? It's out of the can. So I'm wondering, how does BlackCloak, without telling us the secrets, but what kind of action could be done?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you're talking about the surface web, there's a lot of things that can be done, right? Removing data broker information, removing home pictures, removing mortgage records, removing other things, suppressing other things. That's all something that can be done on the surface web. As it relates to the deep web and dark web, it's much like you have a cyst and you have it in your shoulder, but you discover is just, what type of MRIs are you doing? Are you doing them every year? Getting a double check, making sure the mobility is good, kind of just kicking the tires on it, and then getting to the right people so that you can stretch more, so that you put on a brace when you play tennis. And that's really the key thing. Anything that's on the deep web, dark web is not going to go away, not going to be taken down. The biggest impact that we've ever seen, the worst data breach they've ever seen, is the National Public Data breach, the NPD data breach from July, August, when it was announced, of 2024. That was an actual data broker with nearly pristine information used for a lot of government background checks. Name, address, name, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, date of birth, right? As well as full social security number, all contained within that database. And information will never, ever be put back. The genie's not going back in the bottle on this one. It is out there, and there is nothing you can do to remove it. However, if you know about it, you can go ahead and say social security number, all this information. You are absolute target for identity theft. Let's put on a credit freeze. We're not talking about credit marketing. We're talking about credit freeze on Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Hey, this information is more widely available, so let's go ahead and harden the human. If somebody does a confidence scheme, which is where they call you and they're like, hey, Marco, we'd really like to talk to you, but for authentication purposes, we would know that the last 4 digits of your social security number are 2233, and your date of birth is
right.
this, and your address is, I know, we know
that.
We know everything. But right, your address is actually, it's like all that information is just a confidence scheme. It's out there already. And that can be used to then say, hey, you have unpaid IRS tax lien, you have a bill, you have a something, and then go and get real money from it. And so really it's about, right, taking some measures and steps on the identity theft side, taking some measures on the resetting of passwords, taking some measures on dual factor authentication and encrypted password vaults. Yes. And then the other area, it's understanding how that information can be used against you, your brothers and sisters, mom and dad, and the kids. Because once you harden the human, you won't fall victim to it. That's about all that you can do there, right? So knowing is the key, and then having specific instructions and specific abilities to actually mitigate whatever that might be. Maybe your password's out there for the your Schwab R1K account. Well, perfect. Nothing you can do about that. You make sure it's not used elsewhere. Great. You make sure you change your password at Schwab, and make sure you get dual factor authentication turned on at Schwab. That will stop any future risk. So you can take action, and you can decrease that down.
And on the narrative, you can do it on the surface web. Absolutely. You guys do that. That's
absolutely. Like surface, the mitigating what is on the surface web and removing it is absolutely something that can be done. There's always the key exceptions, right? civil judgments, lawsuits, criminal, right? Been arrested, all the rest of this stuff, political donations, different records that are public records. Home, you got a boat, you got a plane, and depending on how it was registered and in whose name it was registered. So there are some limitations, but a lot of this is actually, let's just get ahead of it. Let's actually think more wisely and smartly about it.
So is this something that's done at the executive level already? What do you call this? I mean, if we're looking at
Yeah.
systems, machines, we call that a penetration test or a vulnerability assessment. What's that called in the human executive world?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. Basically it's called an executive threat assessment. So, something obviously, BlackCloak does. So that's that time one. It could be a formal, absolutely, 50 executives, an absolutely formal assessment on them and their significant other, and actually using kids to be able to trace back as well. Sometimes, kids have been known to be a little bit, leak a little bit of information here or there on those executives and their whereabouts. And so really it's taking a look at that dimension of the family, scoping out what would be easily ascertainable to others, and then working over time to mitigate them. Executive threat assessment is one of those things where once you see it, you're going to want to do something about it. Right? It's like you see the picture inside your wall of black mold. Well, guess what? No one's just going to say, we're good. Right? You're going to want to then get the bleach on there, get the wall changed out, get things remediated, get the HEPA filters in, and make sure there's no ongoing harm. Absolutely no ongoing harm. And that's a great starting point. As part of BlackCloak's digital executive protection solution, we bundle in the actual risk assessment live real time, but a lot more people want the formal, 40-page documented action items in terms of where the risks are and all the rest, so that action plans can be done from there. Either way, but it is something now that a lot more people are wanting, a lot more people need, and a lot more, chief security officers. So on the executive protection side, they want, because it blends in physical to digital, all right there in front of you. That's the key thing. It shows the absolute convergence, and it shows where there may be strengths or weaknesses. We just came from one financial institution, and the executive was amazing, absolutely amazing. But we were able to expose everything for them because of their significant other. So they hadn't taken those right precautions there. And as a result, it was just one. It's like, seven steps away from Kevin Bacon type of thing. It's
6
right,
degrees of separation.
6 degrees of separation, right? But I mean, it literally was that.
We've talked many times, of course, with you, and I love the fact that when you started the company, it's a concierge service, and I like the white glove idea, because the people listening to this right now, they're probably thinking like, yeah, go try to tell my wife not to do that, or my kids, how am I going to control that? I mean, it's a delicate conversation because you are kind of like intruding their personal life. You can't tell me what to do, but I mean, you guys have to be very, very careful, and it's part of your business. So tell me a little bit more about that. How do you move people to accept that?
Well, for a lot of folks, right, you want to make sure that what you're saying, how you're saying it, is the same types of stuff you could say to your, 80-year-old grandmother, right? You want to be able to have that very easy to understand vernacular, easy conversation. It's not about tech. It's about telling stories. It's about actually showing and talking through things. So getting that relationship on the first part of that is absolutely, absolutely critical and key, and it's got to be through a common base of knowledge and communication. Second thing is that, look, literally just like a doctor can't go ahead and force you to, run 20 miles a day and all the rest, can't force you to, but how do you actually help step someone through that journey? And that's where the concierge comes in. Same thing for like wealth management. And this isn't hey, whirlwind, we're going to get a trust and estate and wills, and we got to read and label all your accounts. We got to move money. We got to this, we got to do it all right now this week. That gets stretched out over 12 to 18 months in terms of making sure that about a year later from your first interactions, that you're in a much, much better place. Tax treatment, estate skimming, all the rest of this stuff. It takes a team. And so if you take that approach, if you take that approach that's a tech-enabled service, and that concierge and being very, very bespoke, and that's key. So that literally it's what does the individual think or want their journey to be? in terms of the amount of time they want to spend, the amount of interest they want to spend, which areas are most important to them. And you got to be able to do that in really, really a one-to-one fashion. It's the relationship that matters. And so that's how we're able to do it. That's exactly how we're able to do it. Great tech, but most as with all things, it's an incredible group of amazing people and amazing relationship and trust that's built.
Takes the human.
It does take the human, and I totally appreciate and don't want to take away from the human element here, but I know you did hire a new VP of engineering who presumably is building some new stuff for you.
Yeah, I mean,
And
we have an amazing engineering team.
Because one thing that comes to mind, I'm a very IT infrastructure focused guy. That's where I spent all my time for the last 30 years. So I view that world as a bunch of machines, a bunch of apps, a bunch of networks with a countless number of weaknesses and vulnerabilities that need to be mitigated, right? So I'm wondering how that, and there's third party, you talk about the kids and the family.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how a digital executive world looks in terms of scope of vulnerability and how far can the human, obviously human is the trust and relationship part, but then you have to have some tech to really scale that out, right? Can you speak to that a bit?
It is. I can, and it is so important. We're super happy that Santana is here as a VP of Engineering at BlackCloak. We have a massively growing engineering and product team and organization. Matt Covington, and I think he's been on a call with us before. Was VP of Product and came from Zero Foxes. There's so much good stuff here. The fact of the matter is that what we do behind the scenes is super complicated, super sophisticated. What we're able to do is through the presentation layer back to our members, whether they're corporate champions, individuals, we're able to go ahead and present something that is very, very easy to see, very easy to understand, very easy to act upon. We don't have to overcomplicate the things that they want to do. I'll give you an example. Having a simple pop-up on the BlackCloak app that's on your device that says, hey, this is your home. There's a picture of it. Would you like to remove it from Google Maps? As an example, click yes or no. Simple. I don't have to type in a reason or this thing, that, none of this stuff, right? That's very, very easy to understand. We can tell them one line about the risk. We can tell them one line about the pro, the con, and then you make up the choice. But having that very, very easy to use presentation layer that is not a cybersecurity, kind of like massive checklist or something that would look like a inside of a commercial enterprise is meaningful. And so it's got to be engineered right. Super sophisticated under the hood, Sean, is what we like to go for, but we just want the hood to be really, really shiny, really easy to use, really accessible. And then great people.
Sleek and fast as well. You want that.
Aerodynamic. That's always been the barrier to understanding cybersecurity. Right, and I have to point the finger to the cybersecurity industry for right. You're gonna say that for wanting to keep it that way. Like we're the shaman, we do weird shit.
Well, I think a little bit of this is back on us as an industry. And look, I'm a prior chief information security officer, so I'll throw my hat in the ring on this. I feel like we've made things really, really overly complicated. And in some cases, it's on purpose. It's if you make it really complicated or it's so in depth or so this, and it's so tactile based, right? We can show that we're the experts. Well over a decade ago, really kind of changed the tune on that as to, look, if I can't sit here and explain this to my mom or my dad, then there's a translation problem in layer because my board's not going to get it. The other executives aren't going to get it. And I'm not going to have champions that are part of my team. I'm not going to have other people. I got to bring other people with me on this journey. I have to listen to them, but they have to feel like they can converse and talk with me. If this is a one-sided conversation, it's because I've overcomplicated it. And many times it's to keep people out. And that's not what we should be doing as an industry. There should be bringing people in. Let's get more conversation, more collaboration, and let's really simplify things. We still can do uber complicated under the hood, but let's simplify things in terms of decisions, in terms of data, and in terms of the efficacy of what we're doing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to, we're going to close here in a moment, but I want to bring it full circle to kind of what really matters. And yes, money matters. Yes, privacy matters. Ultimately, our physical being really matters, right? So, have you seen an uptick in the digital executive threat assessments, and with an aim to really understand and get the notifications that not just my house has a picture online, but that perhaps there's some danger lurking?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the world has really changed and shifted. Everyone understands right now that there's absolute convergence between physical and cybersecurity in the realm of digital executive protection. Unless you are actually tackling them all, you do not have a product. You do not have a solution. You have a point, right? Just one simple point solution that is not going to be adequate in the long term. And strategically, you're not skating ahead of the puck. It's got to be all those things together. Um, I go back to kind of our mission as we protect digital lives. Pretty simple. The key here and why the physical really matters and the cyber matters as impacting the physical is that at the end of the day, we're talking about people. We're talking about people. We're talking about husbands, wives, kids, fluffy dogs, significant others. We're talking about people and families. And no executive, no board member should have to fear for their physical security or well-being. No one should have to have their kids subjected to doxing, swatting, cyberbullying, or other activities. That just should not be something where, nation state should not be on the top of your list in terms of hacking your personal Gmail account to go ahead and get into the company and cause a whole bunch of bad things to happen. This area really needs to be looked at as how do you go ahead and protect people, their lives, and their ability to do their job, but also just live, especially in the personal life. And so I think the events in December have really gelled that for a lot of folks. Have really gelled that for the boards of directors that we're talking with and the companies. And really gelled it for the family units. Everyone is on board with hey, how can I go ahead and, number one, through an executive risk assessment, threat assessment, go ahead and understand more about my potential risks? And number two, what can I do and what can we do together with you to go ahead and mitigate those? And that's what it's really about. I will tell you, we had our big offsite, big company offsite at the end of January. So people are tied to the mission. That is our purpose. They're purpose-driven, mission-driven, and nothing is more fulfilling for them each and every day than helping to fight for the good guys, helping them win, and hopefully helping to put a little bit of a dent in the bad guys that are the adversaries out there.
That's kind of the dream job, right? Is to have something that's meaningful in the work that you do, and doesn't get much more meaningful than what you're doing, Chris. So let's close on that. I think we've given folks a lot to think about there. I'm excited to see you in San Francisco for RSA conference. I know you have a couple speaking spots there, so perhaps you'll come back on and tell us a little bit more about what you're going to be talking about at RSA conference. And I believe when is it? April, something like that.
April.
April.
Yeah, April. There we go. I should know that. So we'll see you
going,
there.
so you should.
I am going for sure. So I'm excited to see you there and to hear what you're going to be talking about. And little birdie told me there might be some big news coming too. So hopefully I'll have a chance to talk about that at some point.
I hope so.
Yes.
All right. And until then, if this conversation made you think, there is blackcloak.io, and you can get in touch with Chris on LinkedIn and with us if you have any comments and want to bring the conversation to another level. I talk about society and technology all the time. So, hey, it's all mixed up. There's no going back.
It's all mixed up. But the path forward is through safety and privacy and digital executive protection with Chris and the BlackCloak team. So thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. Stay tuned for more brand stories here on ITSP Magazine. We'll see you all soon.
See you guys.
This is a special announcement. We are heading to RSA conference in San Francisco for our 11th years of coverage, April 28, May 1st.
And as always, we'll bring you keynotes, conversations with organizers, speakers, industry leaders, plus the latest insights from the world of cybersecurity.
And we'll reconnect with old friends, meet new ones, and of course, we want you and your company to join us.
We have a few spots left for full sponsorship and our on-location briefings. You can book yours now at itspmagazine.com/RSAC.
We're going.
And you're coming with us.